there's an expectation when you see Cannibal and you open up a Cannibal Corpse record that you are going to see a Vince Locke image somewhere in there that is representative of what that band has done musically inside that record.
Definitely. I mean, he's been there since the beginning. I mean, he's done all our artwork. I mean, it's like, you know, and we've grown with him. I think his art has grown and changed over the years.
I'm trying to get better with each subsequent album cover. Trying to outdo myself. He's an integral part of, you know, the band's mystique and the band's imaging.
Vince Locke's gruesome album artwork for the death metal band Cannibal Corpse is legendary, blending a distinctive mix of horror and surrealism, characterized by graphic and gory imagery. His art explores themes of death, decay, and the macabre, featuring grotesque figures and unsettling scenarios. His style combines detailed line work with a dark color palette, creating a visceral impact that evokes strong emotional responses. Locke's ultra-violent watercolor paintings are provocative and thought-provoking, drawing viewers into a haunting world that challenges conventional aesthetics, taking motionless images and conjuring unrelenting nightmares from the stillness. In an interview, Vince Locke mentioned how he became the album artist for the death metal band Cannibal Corpse, saying, "Chris Barnes got a hold of my number and called me up one day out of the blue, said he had a job I might be interested in." When Locke was asked where his ultra-violent album imagery originates, Locke responded, "Usually it comes from conversations. Chris Barnes really knew what he wanted. Although I remember this time he decided what he wanted, but I had another idea, like of a zombie woman with her ribcage showing and a crucified baby up in there. They have specific things they want, usually, but I'm free to do my own ideas and sketches as well. I would make 2 or 3 options to choose from." When asked which Cannibal Corpse album was his favorite to create, Vince Locke replied, "My favorite is still Kill. Really happy with the artistry. But I picture what I want to get out. It doesn't always happen. A lot of times you look at it and think, should have done this or that, or a little bit more. But with this one, it didn't happen."
You know, like I said, we can probably, you know, release an album, the next album, and just be, here we go, here's our black album or whatever. It's a red cover. And that's what Kill was. There you go. Kill was even probably the worst one out of all of them, for we have no artwork at all. It's the logo and Kill. There you go. And Kill was arguably one of our best albums too.
Butchered at Birth is the haunting debut of Cannibal Corpse, a dark beginning that changed the course of death metal, for better or worse. Its chilling cover is a spectral mark that the band will face as long as the echoes of this music resonates, and perhaps even in the shadows beyond.
Butchered at Birth, we use this as a promo item.
We covered it with butcher paper. But we also did just a plain white cover that said Butchered at Birth.
We did it so that people would go, wow, Cannibal Corpse, Butchered at Birth. Instead of them getting and take a look at it, they'd have to open it to get the idea of what was underneath here. And there's your shock value more than anything else, for just open up and looking at it. It's like, wow, what's this? And then they rip it open and go, whoa.
Butchered is the best one, I think, still to this day. That's my favorite one. I actually plan on getting one of my custom Dean guitars airbrushed with Butchered at Birth on it.
It ranks among the most banned album covers ever created, and for good reason. It's utterly grotesque. In the realm of horror, there's an unspoken rule: leave kids out of it. Yet it was only a matter of time before someone dared to breach that boundary. The eerie watercolor painting depicts 2 grotesque zombie butchers, slowly removing the fetus from the carcass of a cannibalized woman, to hang it in a representation similar to lights on a Christmas tree. The striking red, white, and black palette captivates the eye, but it's the haunting visage of the woman's face that lingers in the mind, suggesting that even these ravenous zombie butchers harbor a buried appreciation for beauty within their decayed frames. From a purely artistic perspective, this stands as the most shocking cover in Vince Locke's disturbingly twisted portfolio.
Cannibal's gone into that status where basically you see that butcher baby, you know it's Cannibal. You can put that baby on something, you don't even put the logo, and you know.
This is Cannibal Corpse's 3rd album, Tomb of the Mutilated, featuring a cannibalized corpse going down on a mutilated woman with her arms outstretched. The flickering candles cast eerie shadows, while the skull and steak knife stand as haunting symbols of macabre artistry, each element weaving together to create a visceral tableau that shocks and captivates.
Usually start with very rough little thumbnail scribbles, just more about shapes, and it sort of maps out what I want to do. Well, these were my first 2 sketches for Tomb of the Mutilated, but weren't graphic enough. I went to that because we wanted it to be a sex act, and I just didn't think the composition was working right on that, so I went to that. This is the censored cover for Tomb of the Mutilated. It's like different parts of the same scene. This is the zombie finding the female zombie, opening up the sarcophagus.
The album Eaten Back to Life unveils Vince Locke's chilling mastery in depicting zombies at their most horrific. Each image evokes a visceral terror, drawing you into a nightmarish realm where the undead come alive in all their grotesque glory.
This is the original. The watercolor and acrylic. Lots of experimenting. I didn't really know what I was doing. Using the airbrush on the clouds. They haven't used too much, so it was a learning process getting that done.
The haunting album artwork vividly depicts a zombie in a graveyard devouring his own intestines. Vince Locke's artistic touch and watercolors cast an eerie spell, and this initial cover embraces a hauntingly textured blended style, rather than the meticulous details of his later pieces. At its heart lies the familiar terrain of zombies and graveyards, an all too common trope, but it still sends shivers down the spine, particularly because of the face of the ghoul. Capturing the essence of a terrifying zombie is extremely difficult. This unsettling visage lingers long after the zombie's gaze has drifted away.
Paul called up and said, Chris Barnes is no longer in the band, but I had new ideas for the cover, obviously. Up until then, a lot of women get mutilated, and there was a lot of that in the lyrics. I wanted something on the cover that was against the men.
Well, like there, men are getting abused too. We're not misogynist.
That makes you cringe and wince.
The guy's got barbed wire around him, like mummified barbed wire. His dick is cut off, orgasm through torture.
The artwork for Cannibal Corpse's album Vile is strikingly graphic, showcasing a decomposing, mutilated corpse that's been cut in half, restrained by barbed wire. The central figure spews maggots from its lower torso. The color palette is dark, featuring deep reds and gloomy tones that enhances the overall sense of dread.
Well, he usually bases his stuff upon song titles and lyrics that are given to him, like Gallery of Suicide. They're just a gallery of different people that are like killing themselves. So he hit that one on the nose.
And the censored cover is the outside of the castle.
Somebody's got to jump off it, eh?
The uncensored cover, that was one of the covers that I liked the best because it didn't have any fantasy element to it. It was like regular people offing themselves as opposed to a zombie offing somebody or an alien creature knocking somebody's head off, literally.
The last example to be examined is Violence Unimagined. It's one of the most gory album covers Vince Locke has ever created for Cannibal Corpse. The deranged killer, a possessed naked woman who eviscerates two men, beheading one of them and devouring human entrails. The horrific scene depicts the woman ripping an innocent baby to shreds with a mouthful of piranha-like fangs. Most artists who depict gore follow a code of not including children in their work. Due to this restraint, Vince Locke's art stands out as all the more groundbreaking for venturing into the horrifying realm that most other artists aren't willing to go to.
We are definitely the kind of guys where if we find something that works, we pretty much stick with it. Same thing for like the artist for our band. We just always used Vincent Locke for album artwork. And most of our t-shirt artwork too is also Vince Locke.